As Gen Z, we are the most technologically advanced generation to date, and this comes with both positive and negative consequences. According to a survey by Axios, 1 in 5 Gen Z adults identifies as LGBTQ+. We are a fast-paced, quickly evolving generation that is responsible for the welfare and survival of the future generations. This is a huge burden, but we need to take action. According to the Human Rights Campaign, LGBT+ youth are more than twice as likely to feel suicidal and over 4 times as likely to commit suicide compared to heterosexual youth. No one should feel this way. And by including LGBTQ+ related topics, we can create a more inclusive environment and change this. At Green School, the first time we ever openly discussed LGBTQ+ topics in class was in grade 8, this year. We can do better, and with my quest, we can start from a young age and create change. It is important to remember that although the term LGBTQ+ first started being used in 1988, that it is not something new. Many people believe that people are only coming out as queer because of social media. And although social media can help people be more aware of themselves, it does not change your sexuality or gender. There are records of same-sex couples from way before the internet. In the 25th century BC, 2 ancient Egyptian servants, who, according to sources such as Legacy Project Chicago and MakingQueerHistory.com, were buried in a way that would have been normal for husband and wife. They're widely believed to be the first recorded same-sex couple, although undoubtedly not the first to exist. Furthermore, our current society has created this construct of there being 2 opposing genders, with completely different roles in life. And although many people do fit into these categories, many don't. This may be surprising, but a lot of communities, empires, and cultures throughout history have had and do have a range of genders. According to an article by BBC Indonesia, the largest indigenous community in South Sulawesi, called Bugis, recognizes and accepts 5 genders. Throughout history, there have always been communities and time periods where LGBTQ+ was accepted, and others when it was not. But to create a safe and comfortable environment for everyone, it needs to be accepted always. According to a study by Pew Research in 2019, when asked if should society accept homosexuality, 80% of Indonesians said no and 9% yes. This shows the sad truth that Indonesia isn't always a safe space for members of the LGBTQ+ community. Same-sex marriage is not recognized, and although there are no nationwide laws against homosexuality, members of the LGBTQ+ community suffer from being judged and harassed daily. There's a huge stigma around homosexuality in Indonesia, and I believe that this comes down to education and understanding. Being at Green School, we are in a relatively safe environment, and although some schools ban things to do with LGBTQ+, I'm happy to say that here, it is possible for the students to overcome these stigmas and be themselves. Now, you may be wondering why. Why is it important that we have LGBTQ+ representation? It is important because there are still people out there who would kick their kids out of their house if they found out that they were gay. And according to GLSEN, 28% of LGBT youth drop out of school due to harassment. Thanks to all the brave people out there, the world has changed, but it still has a lot of changing to do. And according to the Human Dignity Trust, there are still 11 countries where being part of the LGBTQ+ community would result in death, and 71 countries where you would serve punishment. People are being killed for who they are. All this isn't about forcing people to do things. It's about creating a network of understanding so that people want to do things. And by normalizing and including LGBTQ+ related topics, we can do that because there is nothing wrong with being yourself. Growing up, I always felt very comfortable with myself. But then, as I got older, I started using social media. And I was suddenly surrounded by diversity. People different from anything I had ever known before. People who weren't afraid to show themselves as who they truly are. Whilst this was amazing, my mind was suddenly flooded with questions, fear, and anxiety. Who was I? Who am I? Never in my life before had I been aware of things like gender fluid, omnisexual, or non-binary. I became uncomfortable with myself, and I started questioning Subconsciously, I started questioning, and I became uncomfortable with myself. Because what if I wasn't a girl? What if I wasn't straight? I had had these fixed ideas of myself for so long, and I didn't know what to do. I never really spoke to my friends about this, and to this date, I'm still not completely sure about who this person standing here talking to you is. But I do know that if I had had access to more diverse literature, including LGBTQ+-related books, that I maybe wouldn't feel terrified of myself, of change. Books and literature have always been important parts of my life, sometimes even, perhaps, my life. I could come home from school and submerge into the pages of yet another story. I think that reading is like living many lives and learning through them all. Coming-of-age stories, schools of magic, Greek gods, mystical lands, creepy boarding schools, you name it. I could go anywhere. Now, in most books, there are two pretty important factors. Number one, love interests, and number two, self-discovery. The main character likes someone, makes a huge mistake, thinks the world is going to end, and then fixes it all. Throughout this, they're trying to figure themselves out, and in the end realize that although they're not sure about everything yet, things will be okay in the end. We've all heard it. This is a story in a nutshell. Now, I would like you to raise your hand if you have ever read a book with LGBTQ+ representation. If you have never read a book with LGBTQ+ representation, then it's probably not your fault. Our society has hidden these topics away from you. But the problem is that without LGBTQ+ representation, people don't have the opportunity to learn and be aware that the LGBTQ+ community is all around us, with us, tired of being discriminated against because of who they are. For the record, I am not telling you that every single book needs to be LGBTQ+ related. I am telling you that it is about time that it is normal for books to have same-sex characters and characters that use a diversity of pronouns, because it is normal. My whole quest is about LGBTQ+ and diversity-related books, because those books are what we need right now. But remember, they aren't any different from other books, because in the end, they're all books with their own stories to tell. I've been at Green School since I was 8 years old, and Quest has always been this far away, out of reach, exciting project. When I was in grade 4, my brother did his Quest, also about books. And I remember thinking about how different his world was from mine. It would be ages till I did Quest. Then 2 years passed by, and I was in grade 6, thinking of ideas, because you could never be prepared enough. And then came grade 8. And my enthusiasm came to what on earth was I going to do? All the ideas I had come up with before weren't relevant to me anymore, and there were too many possibilities now to choose from. I went through many ideas, such as shark finning in Indonesia, theater masks, fear and its causes, LGBTQ+ rights, and best of all, mantis shrimp mental health. I was drowning in ideas, and I started having panic attacks at the prospect of having to choose one. I also felt like there were so many expectations on what my quest should or shouldn't be that I didn't know what to do. Deciding was really difficult for me, but in the end, after many mind maps and with the help of my parents and teachers, I came to a conclusion that was doable, needed, and something I was passionate about: LGBTQ+ representation in primary school. At first, I thought about possibly creating a unit around a book, or delving into the social-emotional curriculum in primary. But in the end, I chose that for my quest, I was going to help create a more inclusive community in primary by buying LGBTQ+ related books and giving them to the library. I had doubts. Was I doing enough? How would it go? But soon I realized that worrying would get me nowhere, and now that I had a plan, it was time to actually act on it. First, I had to create a suitable list of books. I visited the library to check what books they already had. Unsurprisingly, there were about 5. They had also been put on a different shelf, which created a divide. I wanted to change this. From here on, I worked, creating the best-suited LGBTQ+ related primary school list of books. A former Green School teacher had tried to do something like this before, so I looked at her list. I also researched LGBTQ+ related books online, listened to read-alouds, found some great lists of books, checked Goodreads for a wider range of opinions, and checked with the library to make sure I wasn't buying books they already had. I spent over a month researching, and although this did slow down my process, it was vital to have the right books. While researching, I found myself yearning to read some of the books myself. I decided that if I could, I would get some books for middle school as well. I reached out to the Green School community asking that if anybody wanted to donate books they no longer wanted or buy books for my quest, that they could. I was overwhelmed by the generosity and support of some people. Then, when I had the list, which consisted of graphic novels, storybooks, and novels aged 4 to 12, I had a meeting with Ibu Leslie, and we talked about creating a spreadsheet with titles, age recommendations, and prices, so that I could then send them to Green School Purchasing to be bought. I made the spreadsheet, and with Ibu Leslie's help, got what I needed, a 4.1 million rupiah budget. Then it was up to Green School. As of now, the books are on their way to Bali, and by the start of next year, there will be around 30 LGBTQ+ related books in primary. In addition to bringing books to the library, during Book Week, Ibu Laura and I went down to the 3rd grade classroom to read them a book about gender identity. The book talks about the many different ways people can identify regarding to gender. The class was full of enthusiasm, and there were many questions. I was reminded again of how open-minded children can be. It showed me that the most important thing is to bring awareness from a young age. Then, on June 5th, I went to Tamora Gallery with a few other grade 8s, Ibu Laura and Pek Dan, to host a workshop for kids. I brought art supplies and paper cut into triangles to create rainbow-themed bunting for my quest. They were too young to fully concentrate on the topic, but it was really fun and I enjoyed it. In the middle of my quest journey, I broke my foot while dancing. This complicated things as I couldn't do anything by myself, but it made me realize that when I need help, I should ask for it. 4 weeks before quest, I started writing my speech. This was quite difficult for me as I can't really write when told to, but an LGBTQ+ is a topic that is personal for some people, and I didn't want to hurt anybody with my writing. But in the end, due to a midnight idea moment, I had the start of my speech. The thought of presenting was terrifying, and I couldn't finish my speech until the very last minute because my quest wasn't done. But as you can see, I did it. Now, for my quest, I added books to the library. I worked with kids. I hosted a poetry competition, and more. But the most important thing is my message. While writing this, I asked myself, what do I want you to get from my quest? And my answer to that is simply understanding. I want you to understand that LGBTQ+ isn't something to be afraid of, nor to judge. Homophobic jokes will not get you anywhere, but love and kindness will. Furthermore, I would like to thank all the wonderful people who have helped me with my quest. Thank you to Ibu Leslie, my parents, my teachers, the Green School Purchasing and Library teams, all for your unwavering support. And thank you to the audience, all for being here. Standing here, I feel like I should be explaining myself more clearly. I'm terrified of saying something wrong. But in the end, I'm here, talking about my quest and why it's important to me. And I want you to know that you're a part of this too. Educate yourself. Ask respectful questions. Be aware of people's pronouns. Speak up against homophobia and support members of the LGBTQ+ community. And of course, read books.